and welcome to today's webinar on developing your IP and startups with corporate strategic alliances. And today we are featuring Printpack. Printpack is a member of our corporate selection committee, and this company is one of the industry leaders in flexible and specialty rigid packaging. I apologize. So if you're, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a startup, or if you're a university with IP, or companies or startups that are specializing in different types of packaging, then we welcome you to this webinar, and hopefully you find this webinar educational and informative. But before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know that we are doing this webinar series to feature not only the members of our corporate selection committee, but also to talk about the companies and the IP that you can put forward for the demo day. So we have 3 programs for October 16 and 17 that we are highlighting at the event. So one is the University Startups Demo Day, where we invite the universities and the startups to submit their companies, and each of these companies are going to be scored by our corporate selection committee, and the top scoring companies will be given presentation slots at the conference in Washington, D.C. in October. The second highlight of the event is what we call the IP to Startup program, and this is where I mentioned that if you have IP or patents, you can also submit them through the demo day, and they also will be scored to see if they're market aligned and if they are, if they're relevant to the industry. And the top scoring IP will be published in an IP book and distributed to the different corporations that we work with. And last but not the least, this is open to startups that have been through the first and the second demo days. We've specifically invited them to provide us business plans and milestones to be scored, and they will be given presentation slots not only to present in front of members of the American Chinese Growth University Fund, basically 30 VCs from China that are interested in funding university startups, but also specifically invited US angels and VCs. So the Investor Roadshow is the third highlight of the event on October 16 and 17. So if you're a university, if you're a researcher, an entrepreneur, and you feel that you belong in any of the programs that will be highlighted on October 16 and 17, you can contact us, or you can directly submit your startups and your IP. So just so you know, we have opened the final deadline for submission. So the final deadline is October 25th. If you miss the July deadline, you can still submit. If you need more information, just go to nset2.org to get more information, or you can just go to the website and live chat with us so we can help you if you have questions about the upcoming demo day. Before we formally start, I'd like to let everyone know that we will have Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions for our speakers today, please feel free to type in your questions in the questions box of your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will queue up your question for us to read at the end. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. However, if your question has not been answered, please feel free to email us, and we'll try to get to your question as quickly as possible. This session is being recorded, and the slides are being made available to the attendees. The slides and the video will be available 24 to 48 hours after the webinar concludes. You will receive an email from us once the slides and video are available, so please check your inboxes for an email from me letting you know that the slides and the video can now be viewed. You can also watch more videos from our past corporate webinars by subscribing to our YouTube channel. So hopefully if you missed any of the past webinars, I think we've done 5 already. You can just go to our YouTube channel and view our past webinars and also other videos that, that relate to innovation and entrepreneurship that you will definitely find interesting. All right, so enough of me. I will turn it over now to our speaker today. Today's speaker is Justin Hook. So he's a research engineer from Printpack, and he's here today to talk about what Printpack is looking for. So as I mentioned earlier, Printpack is an industry leader in flexible and specialty rigid packaging. So Justin's role is to look at long-term R&D and leads in order to assist Printpack's technology scouting efforts. So I'll turn it over now to Justin. And Justin, are you there?
I am here. So hello, everyone. I appreciate the time joining us today. Also, we'll add, we've got Nilesh Sabargankar here as well. He's another research engineer on our team and works with me on our efforts around tech scouting. And actually, the two of us both joined the last Inset 2 University Startups Demo Day in April, and more recently I've joined as a member and a part of the selection committee as we saw Inset 2 being a valuable entity to connect university startups and IP to industry and other VCs and generate funding and everything. So we see it as a good opportunity to get exposure to a number of startups and engage with you all. So I'm going to give a kind of an overview of Printpack and some of our needs. So I'm pausing just to let the slides load. Okay, so Printpack at a glance. So Printpack's an industry leader in flexible and specialty rigid packaging. We were established in 1956 and have over 60 years of experience in the packaging industry with over 3,200 associates. We're a family-owned, privately held company with over $1.3 billion in annual sales with 19 manufacturing plants. Ria, do you see the next slide?
Yep, I see the map now.
You do see the map, okay. Sorry, I was waiting for the green indicator on our view. Sorry about that. So this year's, give you an idea, so we've got 19 manufacturing plants. We're predominantly located in the U.S. With, in addition of that, is 2 plants in Mexico and 1 in Suzhou, China. We've also got indicated here kind of how we split amongst our flexible, rigid, and medical plants. So Printpack capabilities. So Printpack is split into 4 primary business units. First 2 of those being Printpack US and Printpack Mexico, which both fall within what I've got shown here as flexible. And then from there, we've got our medical division and rigid division. On the flexible side, on the left, you'll see some various capabilities that we have that kind of encompass what we have from a flexible and medical standpoint. So we go anywhere from kind of down the line with filmmaking, with cast films and blown films, then printing with flexographic and rotogravure printing, as well as digital printing capabilities and any other pre-press capabilities that go on the front end of that. From there, we've got lamination capabilities with adhesive and extrusion lamination, and then other finishing with pouch making and other pre-applied features, such as interlock zippers and other labels and things like that. On the rigid side, we've got sheet extrusion, then from there, thermoforming, so barrier thermoformed cups and trays and things of that sort, and then other decoration with printing capabilities. So Printpack markets, all kind of in general listed on the side there. Diverse markets, you'll see majority of those being in different various food markets and beverage markets. And while, food and beverage probably accounts for around 80% or slightly above that of our current business, we also participate in a variety of non-food markets, including medical, home and personal care, and industrial markets. So, and also we've kind of pinpointed those kind of non-food packaging applications as strategic growth areas for us. So Printpack scouting focus areas. Got a number of kind of general buckets listed here. First one we've got is smart materials. So this is an area where we think of things like printed electronics, sensors that might be incorporated in something like smart packaging or other smart materials, such as temperature sensors, other chemical sensors, pressure sensors, and things of that nature. Other things in this area might include thermochromic inks and other either color-changing polymers or other materials of that nature. Then from there, barrier technologies. Those might include kind of more traditional film barrier technologies such as, aluminum oxide, silicon oxide, but going kind of extending from there, other things such as oxygen scavengers, other UV barrier materials and polymers, and other types of selective barriers that might be certain barriers depending on environmental conditions or things of that sort. Product protection. Here, this includes things like antimicrobial coatings and additives, foaming materials, child resistance, and other things overall that are protective of the package contents. Active packaging. So active packaging, different technologies that might facilitate extended shelf life or other preservation of the product inside. So it goes kind of along the same lines as product protection, but things that facilitate things like oxygen, moisture, CO2, or other gases transmission inside or outside of the package. Sustainable materials. This includes polymers or additives from renewable materials, other compostable materials, biodegradable and recyclable materials, and anything in those areas. Then the last one we got here is easy open and reclose. Decently self-explanatory, but anything that facilitates opening a package, whether it be a tray with lidding, or if it's a pouch or some other type of some other package for a product. And so things might be different adhesive technologies and other kind of either pressure sensitive or other mechanism for opening a package or reclosing it. So Printpack technology landscape. So we've got kind of our core on the left. So in those areas, so kind of the core areas we look into are material developments. So these would be new material developments that either meet the existing needs that fit within existing capabilities of Printpack, or perhaps capabilities of new or modified assets. And to go along with that, so new materials processing and equipment technologies. So we're scouting for new equipment for materials processing to expand or enhance our product portfolio. And then kind of extending beyond kind of the core things we look at include things such as non-packaging materials and technologies. So identifying materials and or technologies that might fit non-packaging applications that have some synergies with our core competencies or extensions of such. So this would be areas where we might utilize our existing processes or kind of extensions of those for other applications that might be outside of packaging. Next one, systems and Internet of Things. This includes identifying key partners, applications, or systems. These could be either to be used internal within Printpack with our processes and systems, but also systems from promoting further entanglement with our customers, or even consumer interacting platforms or applications, which may go along with the area I spoke about before with smart materials and how those tie in from an Internet of Things perspective. So other processing technologies include kind of things that are outside of what I mentioned before as far as traditional materials processing, but these might include things such as advanced food processing technologies for perhaps sterilization or pasteurization. So these kind of go as an alternate to your kind of traditional retort or aseptic or hot fill pasteurization processes. So these might include areas involving microwave energy, high pressure, or perhaps things like ohmic heating or radio frequency. And the final one I have here around technology landscape is kind of how we look at our scouting efforts and who we're looking to and where we're looking to identify technologies to meet our focus areas and needs. So we've got traditional areas like suppliers, and I've got suppliers really there as far as material suppliers, and below that, suppliers from an OEM standpoint, so partnering with our equipment manufacturers. And then I've got universities and startups. So how does Printpack work with startups? So, we target identifying promising startups that have offerings that fit one or more of Printpack's needs, and potentially opens up new opportunities for Printpack. From there, we may look to form strategic partnerships, engage in joint development efforts, license the particular technology, as well as potentially invest in or even consider acquisition of the startup. Even if the opportunity presents itself for joint ventures, we'd be interested in something like that as well. And from a university perspective, we're working to increase engagement with target universities. We've had interactions in the past, and we look to kind of grow those with specific target universities. So that might involve sponsoring research and projects, and working more closely with their tech transfer department to leverage the university IP. And overall, we're trying to increase our exposure to the research going on at these universities. And the same kind of goes for the government research institutions as well. We've done work in the past with DOD and NATIC and similar entities within the government, and we look to increase those to bring in IP and work collaboratively with those to serve Printpack needs. Any other areas we've got listed here are commercial research institutions, and then directly developing with customers and direct-to-consumer research as well. So that is kind of the gist of who Printpack is, what general areas we're looking into. Open to any questions, and anyone's open to directly contact me to discuss any more specific details around our specific needs or what you have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justin. So I'd like to remind everyone that if you have questions for Justin or Nilesh this afternoon, all you need to do is go to the questions box of your GoToWebinar control panel and type in the questions there. Now, we do already have some questions lined up here, but before we proceed to that, again, I'd like to remind everyone, especially those who joined us later in the session, that we have opened the final deadline for the demo day, and as we mentioned earlier, um, the final deadline is August 25, and we are accepting two kinds of submissions. And these submissions can either be startups in order for you to get the presentation slot for the October 2017 demo day. And we are also looking for IP to be featured in the IP book. Now, for those that are submitting either a startup or an IP or both, and we've had universities, like in the last deadline, we did see, a number of universities that opted to submit both startups and IP. Um, uh, both applications will be looked at, will be scored, will be reviewed by our corporate selection committee, and Printpack is one of those corporates that are working with us to look at startups and to see like which IP is market aligned. So there'll be a good exercise for you to submit your companies and your startups in order for you to know, if your company aligns with any of the needs of industry. All right. So I'll go now to the first question this afternoon. So Justin, are you ready?
Yep, we're here.
All right, great. So the first question is, how many startups do you look at and how many deals do you do per year?
I guess it's all kind of depending on the year, and we probably don't have I'd say a concrete answer for either of that. I would say their number of startups we look at is a large number, at least from a kind of brief overview, looking and seeing how it might be fitting for Printpack. And joining Inset 2 kind of falls right into that and gives us an opportunity to look at a very large number of ones, whether they are applicable to our industry or not, or what Printpack does. So it gives us an opportunity to look over a large number and increase the number that we can engage with. And so the number we engage with or have deals with, I think that just depends on the year and depends on where we stand with the engagement with those startups.
Okay, thank you. So I have another question here that is sort of related. So let me dive into that first. Okay, so the next question is, what is the average price of an acquisition? It's a relative question, but maybe you have some stats or figures here.
Nilesh, and again, there's not a specific number, but this will depend on the size of the company and exactly what their capabilities are, what they can do, what kind of assets we're buying, etc. So I don't think I can give a specific number.
Yeah, and I think because where a point of acquisition comes in, it could be at various stages of the kind of maturity of that startup. So it really varies on acquiring something earlier on, depending on how much additional funding is needed to get there versus a more mature one that has existing assets that would be acquired.
All right. Here's our next question. Okay, do mentoring programs for entrepreneurs and startups exist in Printpack, or do you have programs like an accelerator program?
I would say right now we don't have either one in place from a mentoring programs or an accelerator program. these are potential areas for the future as we grow with these kind of strategic areas and bring in external technologies in-house. So I think there's opportunity for that in the future, but not something we have in place right now.
Yeah, and I think the engagement with NSET too will certainly help us figure this out a little bit more. So yeah, I would agree with what Justin said. There is potential for this to happen in near future.
All right, great. Okay, I have a technical question here, so I hope you guys are ready for this. Here you go. So it's about individualized printing or packaging. Does Printpack have interest in innovative 3D print applications, such as novel antimicrobial coating for packaging of meat or poultry products? Is this something you may be interested in? Perhaps you could give some examples of sponsored research with academia. So it's basically 3 questions.
So yeah, I guess I definitely could have mentioned it in one of the buckets from the first question there. Do we have interest in innovative 3D print applications? I would say yes, definitely. We've done a little work around 3D printing, but not say active for potential products in the market at this point. It's an area that we plan to look more into as things progress with it, but right now I wouldn't say we have a specific targeted effort around 3D print applications, but we are aware of it and open to looking at it.
Yeah, I can take the second question. So on the antimicrobial coating, yes, that is certainly of interest to us. I mean, antimicrobials in general is an area of interest to packaging industry, particularly for meat and poultry products. And it's also one of the most challenging areas technically for something that will perform in a package format once you have the meat or poultry package inside. Also, it's a challenging area from an extrusion perspective, since a lot of antimicrobials may not withstand the extrusion processes. And thirdly, it's also challenging from an FDA and EPA standpoint of view. So certainly, it's certainly an area of interest and would be one of the technology scouting areas. I think Justin even mentioned that under our protective packaging bucket.
Yeah, and to kind of go along with that, kind of one thing we found from the last University Startups Demo Day, and a lot of the, a good number of the 40 companies that presented were kind of in more of the pharma and healthcare side of things, but things such as antimicrobial coatings that might have even fallen into that, might very well be transferable into thin films and packaging materials and applications. And so the last question is, perhaps you could give some example of sponsored research with academia.
I mean, again, we've done work with specific universities. I mean, one example being Georgia Tech, since they're right nearby, and with their material science groups. And I don't know if I can speak about specific research, but I can say we work with the material science group to look at maybe materials that are more sustainable, or say the materials that improve barrier performance or something like that. So we have looked at things along those lines and have collaborated with universities in that regard.
All right, so all right, let's move on to the next question then. All right. How important is having the researchers available to work with you if you are interested in a university technology or patent?
I think it would definitely be valuable. So I think getting down to, if we're looking at, say, leveraging existing university IP, I think it also depends on the stage at which the technology is developed and what kind of further development is needed to commercialize the technology to utilize the IP. So I would say particularly in the case that it's not fully developed and there's more additional research and work to be done to get more towards commercialization, I would think having researchers available who has expertise in that area and have worked on that IP would definitely be of value and interest to us.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, to some extent, this may depend on what the area is, but generally, if the researchers have expertise in the technology that we're interested, then we're going to rely on them to demonstrate and help us out on how to use that technology. So I think in general, this would be valuable.
Okay, I have a related question here. I'm going to pull it up now. You mentioned sponsored research with universities. Do you do sponsored research with startups as well?
I would say we could, but maybe have traditionally not looked at it in the same way as sponsored research, as opposed to being more joint development or some other kind of partnership or agreement.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, mostly what we have done is collaborative work, joint development type work with startups, and we haven't necessarily sponsored it. Yeah. To some extent we have, but not not the traditional way.
Right, and we've also from the investment side, if that's considered kind of sponsored, but that would be more kind of with the overall entity instead of just a particular project with that startup.
All right, I'll pull up the next question then. Here you go. This is a good question. How can universities help align their startups or technology to your needs?
Well, I think some of that falls on us too, to making sure we have the right partnerships with the specific universities and be somewhat diversified and not and work with a variety of universities. And I actually think our getting involved with INSET 2 is a good opportunity for us to establish some more of those close relationships and get more aligned with university research and keeping intimately involved with the tech transfer departments of those universities.
Yeah, I think having that communication with universities is key, and establishing like deeper, longer relationship with universities is certainly would be a good thing from this perspective. And INSET 2 is certainly part of that effort. And again, if universities can also align their research more along with our needs and more along the applied research lines instead of focusing a lot on the fundamental research, that would be beneficial for us, for any kind of corporates or industry people.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, I think we have about 6 questions left, so are lined up. So this is one of the ones that are remaining in the queue. Have you closed deals with universities from Latin America?
I don't know that. So Nilesh and I, being from both from our major business unit being Printpack US, even though we support the other side of things, we have not specifically engaged with universities from Latin America, but we perhaps have through our Printpack Mexico business unit, and we can follow up with that if whoever asked that question wants to reach out directly to us.
Yeah, I mean, based on our knowledge, I mean, to our knowledge, we haven't, but we can check.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question is, for the right platform, would you consider partnering for development for rights in some fields of use, letting your partner have rights in others?
Yes, yeah, I think we would. It's something we have done in the past, and we've actually done similar things with engagements with our customers, where we've got kind of joint rights and rights to specific areas or markets or applications. And it's something we've done and we're open to.
Do you provide analysis on production viability of experimental laminate packaging for startups?
I guess yes, we have capabilities to do so. So provide, it kind of depends on what specifically we're looking to do, but we do have pilot assets and a kind of wider range of lab testing capabilities and ability to test things at small scales to then scale up to larger production. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I mean, this will require certainly testing on the pilot scale and maybe on production scale to test viability. So this will actually require testing, doing some experiments.
Yeah.
So we can certainly do that, yeah.
Okay, and we have here our last question for today's session. All right, here you go. Do companies have to have sales for you to be interested? I think that's an if they are or do they need to be pre-revenue? Sorry about that. Do companies have to have sales for you to be interested, or can they have pre-revenue?
No, I think we're open to looking at and engaging with startups at various stages, and I think in this case, being pre-revenue, our interest would really lie on the IP and technology itself, and what kind of promises are there, and getting more engaged and understanding what's needed to scale that. So no, I would say we does not have to have revenue for us to have interest.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I have, let me see. There might be a couple of questions coming in. Are you guys still okay to do one more?
Yeah, we're okay.
All right, let's pull that up. Let me just quickly go through it, and you should be able to see it in a few seconds. All right, it's a really long question, so let's see. Academic researchers want to publish results from research, including those done in collaboration with industry. One concern that comes up often in discussions with researchers is that research with industry is less innovative, less likely to result in good publications compared to more basic grant-funded research. Do you have any views on these aspects based on your experience working with researchers at various universities or government research organizations?
Yeah, I mean, there is always some conflict between the academic researchers and industrial researchers. I sort of disagree with that. The industrial research is less innovative. I think it's equally innovative, but it's in a different area. I mean, it's not so much fundamental, and industry generally doesn't want to publish because there's a tendency towards either filing patents or keeping trade secrets. So that's a balance that we will have to achieve depending on mutual needs, and depending on what's the nature of the research. So if we are interested in, I mean, in case of startups, we are going beyond the stage where the research is already published, so I don't think that's a concern. But if somebody's at a stage where they want to publish the research, I mean, that's something that probably will have to be discussed and talked about when we are there. Hopefully this answers the question. It's kind of a long question, but so.
Okay, so that wraps up our session today. So again, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Nilesh from Printpack for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for going through all the questions. I know it was a lot, but we found this session very informative, and it is a good webinar to introduce Printpack and what you do and what you're looking for. So again, thank you for your time today. And before we conclude today's webinar, I'd like to remind again everyone that the final deadline for the demo day is August 25th. So if you have technologies or if you have startups that fit, Printpack's needs, please feel free to go to our website and submit to either the demo day or the IP to Startup program, where you can submit startups for the demo day and IP for IP to Startup. So you can find more information about the demo day on this page, as well as the pool of our selection committee pool here. So you should be able to know like which corporates are looking at the companies that are and the IP that are submitted to us. For our next webinars, you can find the schedules here. So this is an ongoing series, so we'll definitely try to update you and update the broadcast schedule as soon as we have more corporates signed up to do their presentations. But for those of you that missed the past webinars, you can just go to this page and click through the videos that we've posted on the different corporates that have done the webinars so far, as well as slides for those that wanted to share the slides with the audience. You can download their technical needs in their slides here, and in 24 to 48 hours we'll be posting print packs as well. All right. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Justin, Nilesh, do you have final words before we conclude today's session?
No, I'd just like to say, thanks, Ria, and thanks for INSET too for the opportunity to do this, and appreciate everyone joining in to learn about Printpack and engaging with us.
Yeah, thank you for listening and asking good questions.
All right, so again, thank you, Printpack, for joining us, and thank you for our audience today for joining us this afternoon. We hope that you found this session informative. And if you have questions for us, you can email us at support@nset2.org. Have a good afternoon, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ria.